First, to select our natural food, our observation should be directed to the formation of the organs which aid in digestion and nutrition, the teeth and digestive canal, to the natural tendency of the organs of sense which guide animals to their food and to the nourishment of the young. By observation of the teeth, we find that in carnivorous animals the incisors are little developed, but the canines are of striking lengths, smooth and pointed, to seize the prey. The molars are also pointed. These points, however, do not meet, but fit closely side by side to separate the muscular fibers. In the herbivorous animals, the incisors are strikingly developed. The canines are stunted, though occasionally developed into weapons, as in elephants. The molars are broad-topped and furnished with enamel on the sides only. In the frugivorous, all the teeth are nearly the same height. Canines are little projected, conical, and blunt. Not intended, obviously, for seizing prey, but for exertion of strength. The molars are broad-topped and furnished at the top with enamel folds to prevent waste caused by their side motion, but not pointed to help in chewing flesh. In omnivorous animals, like bears on the other hand, the incisors resemble those of herbivorous, the canines are like those of the carnivorous, and the molars are both pointed and broad-topped to serve a twofold purpose. Now, if we observe the formation of the teeth in man, we find that these do not resemble those of the carnivorous, neither do they resemble the teeth either of the herbivorous or omnivorous. They do resemble exactly those of the frugivorous animals. The reasonable inference, therefore, is that man is a frugivorous or fruit-eating animal. By our observation of the digestive canal, we find that the bowels of carnivorous animals are 3 to 5 times the length of their body, measuring from the mouth to the anus, and their stomach is almost spherical. The bowels of the herbivorous are 20 to 28 times the length of their body, and their stomach is more extended and of compound build. But the bowels of the frugivorous animals are 10 to 12 times the length of their body, and their stomach is somewhat broader than that of the carnivorous, and has a continuation in the duodenum, serving the purpose of a second stomach. This is exactly the formation we find in the human beings, though anatomy says that the human bowels are 3 to 5 times the length of the human body, making a mistake by measuring the body from the crown to the soles instead of from the mouth to the anus. Thus we can again draw our inference that man is, in all probability, a frugivorous animal. By observation of the natural tendency of the organs of sense, the guidepost to determine what is nutritious and by which all animals are directed to their food, we find that when the carnivorous animal finds a prey, he becomes too much delighted that his eyes begin to sparkle, and he boldly seizes the prey and greedily laps the jetting blood, while, on the contrary, the herbivorous animal refuses even his natural food, leaving it untouched if it is sprinkled with a little blood. His senses of smell and of sight lead him to select grass and other herbs for his food, which he tastes most delightfully. Similarly, with the frugivorous animal, we find that their senses always direct them to fruits of the trees and field. In men, also, we find that their senses of smell, etc., never lead them to slaughter any animal. On the contrary, they cannot bear even the sight of it. Slaughterhouses are always recommended to be removed far from towns. Men often pass strict ordinances forbidding the uncovering transportation of flesh meats. Can flesh then be styled as the natural food of man, when both his eyes and his nose are so much against it, unless his senses are deceived by cooking with spices, salt, sugar, etc.? On the other hand, how delightful do we find the fragrances of fruits, the very sight of which even makes the mouth water. It may also be noticed that various grains and roots possess an agreeable odor and taste, though faint even when unprepared. Thus again we are led to infer from these observations that man was decidedly intended to be a frugivorous animal. By the observation of nourishment of the young, we find that milk is undoubtedly the food of the newborn babe. Abundant milk is not supplied in the breasts of the mother if she does not take fruits, grains, and vegetables as her natural food. Hence, from these observations, the only conclusion that reasonably be drawn is that various grains, fruits, roots, and for beverage, milk and pure water openly exposed to air and sun are decidedly the best natural food for man. These being congenial to the system when taken according to the power of the digestive organs, well chewed and mixed with saliva, are always easily assimilated. Other foods are natural to men, and being uncongenial to the system are necessarily foreign to it. When these foods get access to the stomach, they are not properly assimilated. Mixed with the blood, they accumulate in the excretory and other organs that properly adapt to them. When they cannot find their way out, they subside in tissue crevices by the law of gravitation and begin produce diseases, mental and physical, and ultimately lead to premature death. Experiment also proves that the non-irritant diet natural to the vegetarian is, almost without exception, admirably suited to children's development, both physical and mental. Their mind, understanding, will, the principal faculties, temper, and general disposition are also properly developed. We find that when extraordinary means such as excessive fasting, scourging, or monastic confinement are resorted to for the purpose of suppressing the sexual passions, these men seldom produce the desired effect. Experiment shows, however, that the man can easily overcome these passions, the archenemy of morality, by natural living on a non-irritant diet above referred to. Thereby they get a calmness of mind, which every psychologist knows is the most favorable to mental activity and to a clear understanding, as well as to a judicial way of thinking.